What's good, y'all? Blacksmith here, and if you can't tell by the background here, I just got done watching Avatar: The Last Airbender, and I think it's time to review it, so let's get to it. Now, I'm gonna assume that most of you who clicked on this video already know the story of the Avatar, but for those who don't, I got you. Water, fire, earth, air. Long ago, the four nations lived together in harmony. Then everything changed when the Fire Nation attacked. Only the Avatar, master of all four elements, could stop them, but when the world needed him most, he vanished. Now that we got that out of the way, I got my pros and cons of this show ready to go, so let's start with the pros. Now, starting with what I think is the biggest pro here, the story of this series is definitely on a darker take than the original animated series. The opening sequence of the first episode alone sets the tone for the rest of the episodes, and is probably one of the best opening sequences for a live action adaptation of an animated series that I've ever seen on Netflix, and they did a great job with it. The fighting scenes are also fantastic. I liked every single fighting scene. They're definitely worth watching and sometimes even rewatching, especially the climactic fight scene, but I'm not gonna give away too much. They had great combinations of hand-to-hand combat and exhibiting how the elemental forces would be used during a fight. They did a fantastic job on bringing how the fights looked in the animated series into real life, and it just looked great. You'll enjoy these fight scenes. Another pro would be the characters. This series kept the feel of all the characters we know from the animated series intact. You knew who everyone was. The actors did a great job at playing all these characters. And lastly, the pace of the story. I know some people would probably see this as a con, but not me. The way they were able to take the events of the original animated series, combine them, and still tell a cohesive story was very well done. Alright, I sang its praises, now it's time to get to the ridicule. First off, the acting and the dialogue in this, a lot of it was kind of corny after a while. Now, I'm not going to say every character was like this, but there were some characters here that just had a lot of corny lines. I know this is a live action adaptation of the original show that was more soft-hearted than this adaptation here, but a lot of the dialogue just didn't seem necessary, especially some dialogue that kept being repeated throughout the show. It just didn't seem necessary at times. Like, we heard it once, we don't need to hear it again. Also, I know they made this show for people who are also unfamiliar with the original animated series, but even still, it's like you don't need to keep repeating certain lines of dialogue every single episode, especially when these episodes are an hour long. Next, I gotta talk about the story once again. Even though they did a great job telling this story the way it was and still keeping it cohesive, I do think they left a lot more elements from the original animated series on the cutting room floor. And it leaves me wondering, if we are getting a season 2 of this, which I hope we do get, how are they going to incorporate what was left behind into the new season? And if so, how? And I think that's where a majority of the backlash comes from for people who are major fans of the show. They're wondering what elements are they going to take from the original animated series that they didn't use, and how are they going to incorporate those into the new season if we get one? It's just something to think about, I guess. Lastly, I will say I think this show should have been rated more heavily than this. With all the violence in this show, it shouldn't have been rated PG. With all the craziness that the Firebenders were doing, I think this show would have been better with a more mature rating. And I think a lot of y'all who've seen this would agree with me. And if you disagree with me, let me know in the comments. If you've seen the show, let me know what you thought of it. If you haven't and you plan on seeing it, or if this review made you want to see it, let me know too. I appreciate y'all for checking out this review, and until next time, peace.